Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Hi, my name is Madhura Chopra, and I am the Director of Engineering here at Elastic, leading the Security Analyst Experience team. I'm based here in Santa Clara, California, and I've been with Elastic for the last 4 years. Just to make it a little more entertaining and interactive, why don't you all in the chat type where are you joining us from and what is your favorite food, if you may, so that we can make it interactive and see. I'm going to ask the same question to the panelists as well. I'm the host for the next 30 minutes, and I'll be leading the session, moderating the session. Let's get into it. While you type your where are you from, my colleague and I will be observing the chat. Also, we will go through a Q&A session in the end, which is we'll reserve 10 minutes for that. So without further ado, today's topic for us is bits to bots, generative AI's role in the modern cybersecurity. Please feel free as we talk to uh, update your location, your favorite food, and any question in the chat. We have our panelists; they're ready to share our thoughts. So, panelists, we will go around the table. Why don't you start with who you are, what you do at Elastic, where you're located, and what's your favorite food? Let's see. Maybe we should start with James.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is James. I am currently in Malta, in Europe. I live in Colorado, but I am in Malta. My favorite food is, I would say, sushi. Like I'm a sucker for sushi. So, and even at the moment I don't eat fish. So even the plant-based version of sushi is really good. So I'm a sucker for that.
Okay. Thank you, James. Sushi's great. How about you, Tanisha?
Hi, my name is Tanisha Turner, and I'm from East Tennessee. You can probably tell with my Southern accent, but hey, this is Tennessee, so okay. And my favorite food, it's hard for me to narrow down my favorite food, but I will say one of my main favorite foods is fettuccine alfredo. I have to get gluten free because we know the carbs, but fettuccine alfredo is one of my favorite foods.
Sounds yummy. Steph, do you want to go next?
Of course. Hi, I'm Steph. I'm based in Denver, Colorado. And I'm so glad you asked this important question about favorite food. And I'd have to say my favorite food is potatoes in any form. And if I had to pick one form forever, it would be French fries. Thank you.
Sounds yummy as well. Perfect choice. Okay, so we will observe chat. If you wanna write your favorite food or where you're from, we would be happy to know about it. Uh, Without further ado, let's dive in. The first question I would like to ask the panelists, it's a two-part question. How do you utilize generative AI in your daily tasks at work? And the second part to that is, how do we utilize generative AI in our product, according to you? Tanisha, do you want to start this one?
Yes, thank you, Madura. For me, what I utilize generative AI is when we since I'm part of the security QA and on the security analyst team, and I work for Madura, of course. What I use is for exploratory testing in QA of our Elastic Security product. That is how I utilize AI in my daily task. And in another, how do we utilize AI is we create test case scenarios to test any functionalities and features in our product to ensure that the functionalities and features work correctly and deliver quality assurance and accuracy to our customers.
Perfect. Very well said. How about you, Steph?
Yeah, so I am a software engineer on the Explore team in the security solution. And definitely the most useful case I've found for generative AI has been in writing tests. It's a very repetitive yet necessary task as a software engineer. And it's really cool that you can just give your entire function over to something like OpenAI and get back all the tests you need. The frameworks are still coming along a bit, the tools. They don't always get the context right. So I do find myself writing a lot of tests anyways, but at least it like scaffolds out the framework. Also, I write a lot better comments for the code. It can just like read your code and then put it in English, which a lot of software engineers have a hard time doing. So that's pretty cool. It would have been extra useful as a junior engineer, also like to be able to understand other people's code without having to ask, for help. So lots of useful tools out there.
Yeah, it seems very helpful, especially with writing tests and comments. James, what's your view on it?
I use it every single day. So I'm a product manager here, and my main focus is actually generative AI. So how I use it is a perfect complement to anything where I need to do sort of like a bulk task with data, whether that's understanding code, whether that's summarizing like events coming out of Elastic clusters or whatever they be. It is really, really good at that. And even, for example, just putting together future vision documents as a product manager, it's perfect at that. Anything where I need some help to reason out, like something that's able to reason out like a human, like I'm able to do, is a perfect candidate to use generative AI.
Yeah, that's very well said. All great usages. Do you want to talk a little bit, James, about the usage of it in our product?
Absolutely. So back in June, we released the first iteration of what we call the Elastic AI Assistant, which is essentially an interface within Elasticsecurity and also within observability to leverage large language models as you're using the product, like a security analyst, without having to break your workflow. So at any point in time, whether you're investigating alerts, running a search, need help with anything cybersecurity related, you can hit a button or click a shortcut. The assistant would load up with the right context, allow you to ask questions in a secure way where we're able to protect even your personal information, and get responses back and use those responses which in a way which can complement your existing workflow. So if you haven't tried it, it is available as part of the product. I really encourage you to get your hands on it if you can. But so far, it's been a phenomenal addition to what we're able to offer to our customers.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you, James. Okay, let's see. We have people in chat responding. We have people from Netherlands, London. Oh, and some of the favorite food is Colorado barbecue. Sounds yummy. Cool. Let's see. So second question, what do you think are the advantages of using generative AI? And maybe this time we'll start with Steph.
Sure. Well, specifically at Elastic, like James said, we have our AI assistant tool. And as someone who comes from more of an engineering background than a security analyst background, I found this very useful just in my own work. We have so many different ways to query so many different types of data here at Elastic. And I know that other providers have different ways to write queries as well. So one of the cool things about the Elastic Assistant is being able to put in any query, or even just ask in plain English how to search for data or what type of threats you want to search for. And you can get queries in KQL, EQL, ESQL, without having to think very much. You get all of the data that you need right in front of you. So that's just one example. If you're asking about using generative AI, the advantages, there's honestly millions and millions and millions. And does anybody else want to give examples?
Yeah, of course, sure. Actually, that's very well said, Steph, because even writing queries in a simple format and then getting the response back, it's I mean, those who have used generative AI will definitely see that easiness and single pane of glass kind of solution. A little bit extending on that, I can probably share what I think it is. So as a manager, I look at generative AI as a quick manager assistant. And it could be things, very important things, but sometimes we don't know how to phrase the words, or actually how to getting different recognition ideas, giving some critical feedback, using the latest technology in various functionalities, looking at the architecture and trying to decode some things, and then, of course, suggest a few things. All of these things, I personally have used generative AI for for getting inputs, especially the ideas. One of the other things I was discussing with my colleague the other day, on a little bit of a lighter note, I don't speak English as my native language, but generative AI has helped me to understand some some abbreviations or new cybersecurity keywords. Not just the keyword, but it has you. I have been able to understand those concepts better because with one click or with one command, I was able to get them translated into my native language and then read them. So apparently, one of my colleagues does a similar thing. So it was a very nice experience and a good discussion point. So to me, it's a single tool that helps with multiple asks that I may have in a day. Okay, well, that's awesome. Let's move on to the next question. The next question is, again, two-part question. How else do you see generative AI impacting cybersecurity professionals over the upcoming months, years? And the second part of that question is, how would you like to see existing generative AI capabilities evolve? Maybe James, you can take this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there was a question I'd like to answer live as well, which is kind of related to this anyway. So there was a question about, does RAG have a role in cybersecurity? RAG is an acronym which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, which essentially is the concept of supplementing the knowledge of a large language model like GPT-4 or Anthropic Claude 2 or whatever it may be, with additional context that you get from a vector database like Elastic. Now, if you think about it from the security world, and for example, what we've done in Elastic with the AI assistant, so today the primary interface is with large language models. We haven't implemented that retrieval augmented generation use case yet, but we are on track to do that very soon. And that is going to allow us to give users the ability to ask questions on data they have in Elastic, which large language models don't know about. So if I have to give an example, if you are working, let's say, with an alert and triaging it, and you want to ask the question, oh, okay, you've told me that this user has done this potentially malicious activity. What else did they do? And what else might be related to what they've done? That falls right into the retrieval augmented generation use case. And that is a phenomenal thing to be able to do in the cybersecurity world. And that's just one example. So I did want to answer that question because I think it's very apt to the answer anyway. And that would directly impact how security professionals use generative AI. And that's just one of the ways, right? But honestly, as someone who my background is entirely security operations and defense and that sort of stuff, it could be anything from code generation or script generation, right? It could be, so, and what I mean by that is it could be code in the traditional sense, but it could also be a detection as code, right? So if I have an idea to write a detection for whatever platform I may be in, or perhaps like a Yara signature or something like that, I'm going to have generative AI do it for me. I'll be honest, I already do that today. And this would just become even more prevalent over time. The way I'd like to see it evolve is I think large language models today do a very good job with reasoning like a human and understanding context and stuff like that. I think we could have a more industry-related large language model. So there are a few today. When I say industry-related, like a large language model dedicated to the cybersecurity industry rather than a generic one. And I think there's definitely room for involvement there. Again, there are organizations offering this and doing this, but it's not as widely available as sort of the GPT family of models, as an example. I'd also like to see it, see them get larger context windows. So today, large language models and generative AI, there's a limited set of what you could ask it within a specific conversation context. I'd like to see that grow, because this is really going to enable, as a cybersecurity industry, to just have really fully fledged interactions with these large language models, but even as Elastic, being able to offer even more with these larger context windows. So that's how I would love to see generative AI evolve.
Very well, sir. And thank you for those examples, James. That was awesome. How about you, Tanisha? What do you think?
What do I think as far as how I would like to see it evolve? As a malware researcher and reverse engineer, I like to see more examples with generative AI on how it tells us how to reverse engineer fully any malware. Of course, we have some functionalities in generative AI, but it's not as advanced at this point as far as with the LLMs, the language learning models on telling us as far as for sophisticated malware and how to reverse engineer that malware. And APTs, advanced persistent threats, they constantly are continue to evolve, and attack vectors we get more and more sophisticated methods of attack and use and threats. So that's how I want to see it evolve to where as a security researcher, I want to be able to have a more advanced example of when I'm dissecting malware to where, and when I reverse engineering that particular malware signature, that's how I want to see generative AI be more effective and evolve in that area.
Yep. Sounds great. Okay, I think we're almost towards the end of the session. We have one last question. As you all know, at Elastic, we have a source code that we try to follow, and we really respect our source code. Maybe in the chat we can paste the link to our source code. But from the panelists, I would like to know, what is your favorite piece of source code here at Elastic? Steph, let's start with you.
Excellent question. It's so hard to choose from all the excellent pieces of source code that Elastic has. If I had to choose one, I don't want to lose, it's going to be space-time. We get an opportunity to work on ideas outside of our roadmap, and any idea goes. And one such idea, it's so funny that you ask, is that the Elastic Assistant came out of a space-time project. On the security team specifically, we have something called On Week, where we get to use space-time to explore ideas. And that's exactly what happened with Elastic Assistant. This was much earlier in this year, when all anybody could talk about is generative AI. So we had to do something, and that project came out of that. So that's just one piece of excellent source code here at Elastic.
Yeah, as you said, it's very hard to pick one, but that's a great one to pick. Very cool. How about you, James?
For me, it's going to be home dinner. Basically, I have control over my calendar. I work when I need to work, obviously, as long as I get the job done. As an example, I am based out of Colorado in the US, but for the next 2 weeks, I'm working out of Europe. And Elastic will never bat an eye for me to make that decision. And I have the full freedom to do that as long as the job gets done. And so far, We haven't had any issues with that. So home dinner is definitely something that it's extremely important to me, and I utilize it every single day.
Yeah, as I said, hard to pick one. What do you think, Tanisha?
My favorite, and I have actually two, but I will only focus on one because I myself has As You Are in Space Time. But I will focus on coming as you are and being your authentic self. One aspect of that source code is that we have such a diverse culture at Elastic, and we all have different accents and different personalities. And coming in at Elastic, I don't feel like I have to fit some type of mold, or I have to reshape myself to fit in. And at Elastic, we embrace all types of cultures, and that's one of the things I really like about Elastic.
Yeah, very well said, Tanisha. That was awesome. Hearing about all the source code, it's great. This is awesome. Thank you. Thank you all. The session has been great. And now my colleague and I will observe the chat to see if there are any questions, Q&A coming up. Okay, we'll wait for a bit. Maybe there are questions or not. Panelists, you're free to add any last minute thoughts that you may have.
I wanted to touch on something to where I probably didn't answer it fully on how does generative AI going to impact on cyber roles. As a researcher, one of the aspects I want to touch base on is that it's not going to replace cyber roles. It's going to be there as a guide and resource, especially when with the language learning models and AI. They provide the ability to navigate large amounts of data and identify any patterns, and that's very effective. And especially when you identify any type of malware or any type of threats, and it will help develop any type of cybersecurity strategies and help cyber professionals mitigate any type of risk and develop to more defense strategies to combat any type of cybercrime. So that is one thing I wanted to elaborate on that I didn't touch base on.
Perfect. Thank you, Tanisha, for that thought. Okay. Any questions coming up? Okay, I see one question. What's the usage you have seen that goes beyond just using generative AI as an enhanced Google?
I'd
James,
love
you
to
want
answer that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't think thinking of it as enhanced Google is the right way to think about it, because the biggest advantage of using generative AI, large language models specifically, is its human reasoning, and that's not the power of search, right? With generative AI, whilst it's like a shortcut to Google's like ability to get search results, the biggest advantage is the way it reasons like a human. So if I ask a question, let's say that question represents an initial Google search, I can then have it elaborate on its responses. And that's not an enhanced Google, that's human reasoning, or as close to human reasoning as we get, right? And I think that is sort of by far the biggest advantage. If I take cybersecurity as an example, I can, and this is what we do with the assistant today as an example, I can give it a whole chunk, for example, of security findings or security alerts. And it's able to reason like an analyst which alerts are correlated together, which ones are more important, which ones are real attacks, which ones are benign, and give me an answer. And that is by far way more than any search or Google search capability can do. So there is, huge advantages over just enhanced Google.
Yeah, that was a great answer, James. Analytical abilities. Makes sense. Okay, now we have more questions. Thank you, James. How safe is it to use OpenAI connected to Elasticsearch? Steph, you want to take that?
Sure. Speaking for the security assistant, it is very safe. It's just as if you're using OpenAI directly. So anything that you would feel comfortable to send to OpenAI, you're free to see what you're sending. On the side of the data that you're sending, if you want an alert analyzed, we have a feature that you can select specific fields to anonymize. So you can redact host name data, IP data, any sensitive data that you don't want to send to OpenAI. We don't send that to OpenAI. And we are currently not storing any responses or queries. So what you see is what you get with the OpenAI connection from the security assistant.
Thank you, Steph. We have a lot of questions coming in. I'm in the medical sector of AI. How do you see that playing out with generative AI? Tanisha, you want to take that?
Yes, thank you, Madhura. The way I see that playing out with in the medical sector, depending on which role you are in a medical field. Say, for instance, you're in a doctor's office, you can use generative AI to research if a patient has any diagnosed symptoms. I see that as helping with patient diagnosis with symptoms. If a patient tells you, "Hey, I'm having chest pains," or if I'm having trouble breathing, generative AI can be used in conjunction with to help identify and help come up with a diagnosis and symptoms for that patient. And if you're in, say, for instance, if you're in the pharmaceutical industry, it can actually help with when you help drug interactions, because a lot of times patients are taking multiple different kinds of drugs, so it can actually help with identifying which type of drugs more effectively to cross function those with drug interactions for that customer or patient. So that's one of the things I see it helping. Even with charts, when you're doing patient charts, it can help effectively to combine patients' charting and help doctors with identifying and coming up with and gathering all the information for patients' charts, and that's where I see it being effective in the medical field. So it depends on your role, but there's a lot of advantages of generative AI for medical.
Thank you, Tanisha. The next one. Can you talk about how generative AI can help with managing projects? Do you have any recommendations for such available tools? Is that Tanisha? Would you like to take that as well as well?
Yes, there are a lot of there for generative AI project management. There's so many. I've seen hundreds of tools, so that's why you can't even reduce it to even just a few. There's so many tools out there for generative AI and for project management, but it's very effective in helping with project tasks. Say, for instance, you want to focus on two projects and instead of one, then you can use generative AI, some of those tools out there to help you to stay on track and for better project management flow without actually doing everything manually. But there's hundreds of tools out there. I mean, I can't think of any right at the moment because I've just used so many different ones. But that's where I see generative AI being more effective in project management.
Yep, very well said. Thank you, Tanisha. Well, we are ending our session at time, a lot of time for our session. So we will go through the comments and answer the questions that we didn't get to. But let's try to close with this question. Maybe James, you can take that one. What's next on the roadmap for generative AI for the security team?
Yeah, happy to take it. So, I mean, there's a lot. I'll share what I can because it's very exciting. But essentially, the two main things. One is thinking about like beyond the assistant, right? So far we've been very focused on having this generative AI-based assistant where you can interact with it, ask it questions, which is great. We're thinking beyond that now. What if you didn't have to ask that initial set of questions to get some really good outcomes and like decision steps about what I should be doing within Elasticsecurity, for example? So like immediate insights on findings and things like that. And the last thing I'll say, just because we're tight on time now, is working with other large language models. So we've been very heavily focused on supporting the GPT-4 or GPT-3, or say just the GPT family of models in general via OpenAI or Azure service. we're thinking beyond that now. What other services can we start to work with as well? So that's what I can share. But it's a very exciting roadmap for sure.
Indeed, exciting indeed. Well, there you go, right on time. Thank you, James. I would like to thank all the panelists. Thank you all for spending 30 minutes with us this morning or this evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you to all who joined this session. I hope you found it helpful, useful. Please visit our values page that will be pasted on the chat right now, and hope to connect with you online sometime. Thank you all.